All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Dagster's Data Platform Week. So we're super excited to have everyone here. I see people from all over the world joining, so this is super exciting. I just wanted to let you know up front that we're going to be sending out some polls, so please take a few minutes and respond to the polls. It helps us kind of understand what content is the most impactful for you and just kind of learn where you're at in your data platform experience. So whether you're a data engineer, a data architect, or just a practitioner who's passionate about building data platforms, you're definitely in the right place. The world of data in general is just evolving, I think, faster than anyone really thought it was going to. So today we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at today, how data platform teams are being built, where we're headed, and how we think you should start to actually move towards building resilient, scalable, intuitive systems, not only to power the data behind it, but also empower the teams that are building those platforms as well. So for those of you that are in the trenches, day to day dealing with this stuff, hopefully you get some value out of this. And just a reminder again that this is the first day of the week, but we have content on each day, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. So I'm going to give you just a moment to actually work through those polls, and then we're going to kick things off here. So today, we're actually starting with Nick Schrock, who is our CTO and founder, and Pete Hunt, who is our CEO. And they're actually going to talk us through the future of data platforms from our perspective. So very excited to be making that transition. And with that said, I will go ahead and kick it over to them.
Welcome to Data Platform Week. I'm Pete Hunt, CEO at Dagster Labs. Over the past year, we've signed on hundreds of new customers and had thousands of conversations with those customers. One of the most common themes we've heard is that the best companies are now taking a platform mindset when they think about their data teams. This week, we're going to lay out a vision for how we believe organizations should assemble their data teams, their technologies, and their assets as a platform. And we'll be launching new technologies and features that make this data platform vision a reality. We'll do this over the week. With that, I'll hand it off to Nick Schrock, our founder and CTO.
Thanks, Pete. I'm Nick Schrock, the founder and CTO of Dagster Labs. Today's keynote will dive right into explaining that vision in detail and how we envision Dagster's role as the unified control plane for your data platform. This is an organizational and technological vision with a centralized data platform team enabling practitioners to own their data pipelines end-to-end. The core pillar of the control plane is asset-oriented orchestration, and we continue to invest those capabilities. For day two's presentation, we will showcase our next-generation approach to event-driven data pipelines, declarative automation. Intelligent, powerful, and easy to use, practitioners attach policies directly to the data assets they own, and Dagster does the rest. Orchestration is just a means, not an end. The control plane must richly integrate any tool or runtime used by any practitioner shipping business logic to production. This requires an ecosystem approach that provides out-of-the-box integrations for broadly used tools, but also patterns and protocols to incorporate any tool, including your own. In that spirit, we are proud to announce that Pipes, our toolkit and protocol for invoking external execution environments like Kubernetes, Spark, ML-focused runtimes, is going to general availability. We will also discuss the evolution of our embedded ELT and transformation integration families. The control plane doesn't just invoke external tools. It also ingests the definitions, lineage, and metadata of the assets defined in those external tools. That means, unlike other orchestrators, Dagster serves as the system of record for your production data assets and the structure of your data platform. On day 4, we're expanding this vision by announcing integrations with BI platforms like Tableau, Looker, Power BI, and Sigma. These integrations make BI assets like dashboards and semantic models a first-class citizen in the data platform. And finally, on day 5, we will be announcing a new toolkit in preview, codenamed Airlift, to accelerate, lower the cost, and reduce the risk of migrating from Airflow to Dagster. It enables you to richly observe an Airflow instance without modifying any Airflow code, followed by a low-risk, incremental, accelerated migration process. We will also preview our vision for orchestration federation which will enable Dagster to observe and control other orchestrators with minimal effort. This strategy will enable a centralized team to assemble a unified control plane without having to migrate all legacy or peripheral orchestration instances. In today's keynote, we're going to lay out Dagster's role as a unified control plane for your data platform. What we're going to do in this keynote is break down that phrase into its constituent parts in order to explain our vision. Let's start with the phrase data platform. Many refer to companies and products like Snowflake, Databricks, and other processing systems as data platforms. We use the term differently. We believe that every company has a data platform. All the production data pipelines that produce all of the data assets that drive your business are managed by this platform. Heterogeneity is the norm. Many tools, many sources of data, many storage engines, many personas, many use cases. We define the data platform as the systems and tools that produce data. This platform is context-specific. Every business has its unique needs. Every business has its own history of technology and business choices. Every business has a unique combination of production apps, SaaS apps, internal tools, and use cases. You must build the right data platform for your organizations. Data platforms model the entire domain of your business and the external world it interacts with. It's a complicated world, a demanding world. Without proper care and forethought, it can be the source of much toil. It is the focus of massive investment, both in terms of time, money, and energy. It's worth the investment because it's foundational. These data platforms and their constituent pipelines and assets drive essential functions in your business, from operations to data-informed decision-making to ML and AI applications. Its value and importance is only increasing over time. The mission of Dagster is to empower every organization to build a productive, scalable data platform. This has been our mission for years, but its salience and relevance has only grown over time. We see more and more organizations thinking in terms of data platforms throughout the industry. There is a growing recognition of the data platform as a strategic asset. Historically, this has often happened in a bottoms-up fashion, with data engineers and data scientists shifting their focus to platform engineering out of sheer necessity. Now we are seeing more formal job titles and organizational structures using the term directly, such as data platform engineering and data platform teams. This is a welcome development. We see teams achieving great success for themselves and their organizations. We believe Dagster is the natural tool of choice for this generation of data platform teams who need to provide a unified development workflow, orchestration, and observability across the entire data platform. Let's move on to another component in this phrase, the control plane. Now, lots of companies talk about control planes in lots of domains. It's worth asking the question, what is a control plane? What does it even mean? Very few people define it when they talk about it. It's more of a you know it when you see it type of phenomenon. The term comes from software-defined networking, which emerged in the 2000s and 2010s as the way to manage networks at organizations. Instead of IT dealing with underlying inflexible physical infrastructure to configure and operate networks, they instead managed a software representation of that network. This led to much more efficient and flexible network management by smaller, highly leveraged teams. Now, this is the age of AI, so in the process of researching this talk, I asked various AI services to define the term control plane. LLMs are a lossy compression of all human knowledge, so while imperfect, it's often a good way to summarize the commonly understood definition and usage of terms. Two statements really stuck out to me. One, responsible for making decisions about how to handle data or resources. And two, in modern network architectures like software-defined networking, the control plane is often decoupled from hardware and centralized, allowing for more flexible and programmable network management. Let's adapt these sentences to how they would apply to the data platform context. First one, it's now responsible for orchestrating data or resources. In computing platforms, it is the orchestrator that makes decisions about resources at runtime. Let's do the next sentence. In modern data platforms, the control plane is often decoupled from data processing and centralized, allowing for more flexible and programmable data management. This is starting to sound pretty familiar. So to summarize, a control plane is 1, an orchestrator that makes runtime decisions. 2, it's programmable with the right abstractions. 3, it is flexible enough to handle any set of tools and any infrastructure topology. And 4, it can be centralized and managed by a single, highly leveraged team. Let's go through those in detail. In a data platform, the orchestrator takes responsibility for runtime decisions about when to run computations, in what order, and with what configuration. That is the function of orchestration, and it's at the core of the control plane. Dagster takes that further with asset-oriented orchestration. The job of a data platform is to produce and manage data assets used by the organization for operations, analytics, and AI. We believe it is important for the core abstraction to reflect the core purpose of the platform and to use the vocabulary and mental model that all stakeholders use when interacting with it. That is why Dagster is centered on the software-defined asset that defines an asset that should exist. This makes Dagster both a much better and natural user experience, but also a reliable system of record for the structure of the data platform itself. Dagster is the control layer that contains software definitions of the assets, such as tables, machine learning models, reports, in the data platform, and an orchestration engine that schedules the production of those assets. This control layer is programmable, accessible, and operable via open APIs. Dagster's built-in lineage cataloging and operational tools are built on those APIs. This structure allows our customer and ecosystem partners to build their own custom tools and integrations on top of Dagster. The control layer lies atop the data processing layer. Dagster is able to ingest all the definitions and metadata within those constituent tools, such as models and transformation tools like dbt, or sources and ELT tools like Sling, and understand them natively. It can then invoke the computations that back those assets and ingest their runtime metadata. We believe it is critical that the control plane integrate with any data processing tool or pipelining tool. Why? Data platforms are diverse, bringing together many practitioners from different backgrounds: data engineers, analytics engineers, machine learning engineers, to name a few examples. They are not going to consolidate on a single pipelining or transformation tool. Their needs and preferences are too different. Therefore, it must support any tool so that it can be used by any practitioner. And that's not all. The data needs of organizations vary considerably based on their business context. Organizations also come with history, baggage, and technical debt. A landscape of heterogeneous data and infrastructure technologies is the norm, not the exception. A unified control plane must be able to flexibly deploy over any existing topology. Only with the right abstractions, programmability, and flexibility comes the opportunity to make a centralized control plane. Without the right abstractions, the control plane does not provide enough richness and value to users and the application layer. Without programmability, you cannot manage the complexity. And without flexibility, you cannot cover all the use cases and contexts. It is that centralization of the control plane that gives the data platform team leverage and the ability to provide a compelling, unified experience for everyone operating within the platform. This naturally leads to our final pillar, unification. And this is not just about technology, but about the way we organize our teams and our work. Let's start with goals. We'll frame it as how we want data practitioner teams and data platform teams to operate within this unified platform. With data practitioners, we want them to work autonomously. This means they are able to focus on the business logic and the tool of their choice, onboarding onto Dagster with minimal effort. They can self-serve their data pipelines within a software development lifecycle, being able to detect errors, fix bugs, and ship code quickly to resolve issues. This is huge, as practitioner teams can work independently while not putting the data platform team in the critical path. Finally, they can work hand in hand as close as possible to their business stakeholders. The flip side of this coin is that it allows data platform teams to do leveraged work. They can ensure all practitioners are self-sufficient and productive by providing a high-quality developer experience and abstracting away all infrastructure concerns. They are able to focus on high-impact, platform-wide investments to smooth data operations, improve efficiency, and deliver organization-wide impact. And they can partner with cross-cutting policy teams like finance and compliance to efficiently drive projects of organization-wide scope, rather than forcing those teams to laboriously navigate a siloed data infrastructure. So why isn't this happening now with existing technologies and practices? Let's talk about how this plays out in the current reality. At first, you start out with a legacy orchestrator, in this case, Airflow. You start to set things up, and you have simple pipelines running daily. However, as you add tools and more practitioners to the platform, you notice that things start going wrong. The practitioners become less productive and self-sufficient, and the platform engineers are bogged down in the work of just keeping the infrastructure alive. Why? Because these tools were not designed with this thinking in mind. Here are just a few examples. The lack of multi-tenancy means that practitioners stomp on each other. Dependency hell. Breakages impact one another. It's a nightmare. There's lack of testability and no functional software development lifecycle, which means that practitioners have low productivity. And then there's a lack of rich asset-oriented tooling, which means a siloed, fractured, poor debugging and operational experience. And this is just a taste of the problems. The net results should sound familiar. Both the practitioners and the platform engineers fear to change things and are constantly firefighting. So this inflexible monolith is no longer sustainable. Now the team typically has two paths forward. You either break it apart or you lock it down. Both of these have very nasty trade-offs. Let's explore the break it apart option. Breaking apart means, in practice, moving the ownership of the data infrastructure to the data practitioners and their teams. This manifests itself as numerous orchestration instances and technologies managed by the practitioner teams themselves, with limited to no support from the data platform team. There's a lot of problems with this. There's often not enough platform or infrastructure expertise in the organization to execute on this. It's nearly impossible to deliver cross-cutting value to practitioners in the form of productivity or tooling improvements. And it leads to the siloing of the data teams themselves. For example, ML and data teams no longer have shared tooling and no longer collaborate in practice. They work off of different sources of truth. This, at least temporarily, leads to increased autonomy for the practitioner teams. But the leverage in the platform is very low. It is now difficult for a platform team to efficiently deliver productivity or workflow improvements to every practitioner teams. And instead of, say, the finance team working with a single platform team to control cost, they are forced to work with multiple practitioner teams with limited tooling support. The other option is to lock down the platform with policy. This centralizes more work on the data platform team, limiting the autonomy of the practitioner teams. For example, they are not allowed to add or upgrade Python dependencies. Adding new technologies involves process and submitting tickets to the centralized team. This results in the data platform team inevitably taking ownership of more pipelines and business logic. This means the data platform teams are on call more and have to track down problems and triage and fix them themselves. The data platform team has gained some control and ability to build centralized tooling, but practitioner autonomy has been severely reduced. This is frustrating for everyone. The only way to break this cycle and to have the best of both worlds is to make different organizational and technology choices. We believe a rich, unified control plane for the data platform is the linchpin technology to successfully execute this. This approach and thinking manifests itself across Dagster. For example, native multi-tenancy allows teams to autonomously and safely deploy their pipelines onto a shared deployment. Features like branch deployments that create a lightweight staging environment for every PR. This provides a unified developer experience when building and deploying pipelines on the platform, customizable to your infrastructure. There are quality operational tools that enable all practitioners to self-serve and operate production pipelines. And Dagster's single pane of glass and asset graph for platform spanning observability and visibility. This technology choice must match an organizational choice. How do you organize your teams and platform in order to execute on this strategy? This is how we think about it structurally. First, there is a unified data platform team that owns the control plane. The data practitioners in the organization are their customers. The data platform team provides a unified developer experience, operations, and observability experience for all practitioners. These practitioners and practitioner teams own their pipelines end-to-end, enabled on the shared platform. They focus on the business logic and work as closely as possible to their business stakeholders within a highly productive software development lifecycle. Finally, through a common abstraction layer, they collectively delivered a unified asset graph to the entire organization, which serves as a system of record for all production data. We've been using this term, the asset graph. What is it, and why do we think it is so important? It is a graph of your production data assets built in any technology by every practitioner in your organization. Rather than some idealized concept, with Dagster, it is an in-product manifestation of the structure of the data platform itself. By integrating with the orchestrator, it is not just an artifact of what happened, but a living, breathing system of record for your data platform. And it's a rich substrate where you can directly observe, debug, and operate your entire system. It is that unified experience collectively built by all practitioners. Thanks for coming and listening to our vision for the data ecosystem. And it centers on the fact that every company has a data platform and they should staff and build around it. And like we said, it's not just about technology, but it's about the way that we organize our teams and our work. We've covered how it's your data platform, the system and tools that produce data. It's a foundational asset, basis of decision-making, operations, and AI. It's costly and the focus of massive investment in time, money, and energy, and it's context-specific to your organization. Like in other domains, data platforms need a control plane. It's the orchestrator and makes scheduling and resourcing decisions, deciding when and what is computed. It is flexible and programmable, able to integrate with any tool used by any practitioner deployed on any infrastructure. And it is centralized, operable, and managed by a single high-leverage team. And lastly, it's a unified experience for all practitioners with a unified development and deployment experience, powerful operational tools, and a unified asset graph that serves as a living, breathing system of record. In the end, organizationally, we want autonomous data practitioners that have end-to-end ownership over their data pipelines, working directly with their business stakeholders, enabled by a centralized data platform team able to invest in high-impact, high-leverage projects that deliver organization-wide value. We believe that Dagster is the way to implement this vision. And we thank you for coming and listening, and we look forward to the rest of Data Platform Week.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick and Pete, for kicking us off here on Data Platform Week. So, I mean, we'd love to hear from you, and curious if in the chat, this resonates with some of the challenges that you're experiencing and how, you might look towards centralizing your platform as well. I think a lot of the folks that we work with, and we're fortunate to work with a lot of different companies, they experience a lot of the challenges that kind of lead you down this path naturally. So we are going to jump into our Q&A here in just a minute. Before we do that, I just want to brief you a little bit on what's upcoming this week here, because we have some pretty exciting stuff coming down the pipe. So let me jump over to our day 2, which is tomorrow. So on November 19th, we're actually going to talk about core orchestration, how you might manage and handle event-driven automation and partitioning within your data platform, within your ecosystem. Owen from Dagster is going to present on that. He's actually the engineer who programmed a lot of the features that are baked into that. And then we have 2 great talks from customers as well. So we have Tien from Enigma. He's going to talk about how you can orchestrate your SMB data and really show how he uses, the declarative automation to help to drive some of these processes. And then we'll wrap up with Stig Martin from Kahoot, who's going to talk about how you're going to actually make conditional execution work within your environment. How do you balance, lazy requests versus eager requests? How do you balance the needs of the data from, various folks in the company, and whether they need reports immediately or, if they need to be scheduled. So there's some pretty great content coming tomorrow. And then if we jump into the days after that, Wednesday is going to be packed. We're going to be focused on, we're actually going to be talking about Airflow migration on Thursday. And we're going to be talking about, with Red Ventures, changing the car while actually driving it. There's going to be some really interesting stuff going on. And then Friday, we have a packed schedule with data platform as a system of record. And on Wednesday, we got a little issue here, but it's actually Colton Patton and Alex Noonan are going to be presenting on integrations. And then we have cost-effective alternative to Databricks from Jorg Heiler at T Magenta and ASCII. So that should be pretty fun. And with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kick it over to Q&A here. So please feel free to ask your questions and we'll make sure that we get to them.
Great. We have a few questions coming in, actually. I'll go ahead and read the first one. It says, what new features will you be making available to help with integrating various systems? Alex or Nick, do you want to talk about that? Features that'll make it easier to integrate with various systems?
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead. First of all, thanks everyone for coming. In terms of, and you'll hear about this from Colton and Alex later this week, but really our integration strategy is both about building, releasing concrete integrations as well as patterns and protocols so that you can build your own. So kind of three major avenues here. One is pipes, which kind of was released last year, but we're going to full general availability. It's a protocol for making it really easy to launch compute in external environments and get observability and form metadata back from those environments. So if you're familiar with Airflow, this would be like a much, much better version of the Kate's pod operator, but generalized across all runtimes and programming languages. So we're really excited about that. There's a whole bunch of integrations that we're also releasing as part of that. So, integrations like ECS, Kubernetes, all the different Spark runtimes, and also ML runtimes. Then in terms of integrations, we're also, everyone knows about dbt, but there's actually a bunch of other technologies in that vein. Like we've partnered with SDF, which is kind of, you can think about it as dbt, but really targeted towards more software engineers. And it ends up having like built-in column lineage. It is literally on large projects about 1,000x faster cycle time in terms of development. So we really see transformation layer also democratizing. So we have a standardized integration for all those technologies. Also SQL Mesh there's a community integration so that you can kind of no matter what the transformation technology, you can orchestrate them very richly with lineage right built into the orchestrator. And then lastly, we're also big believers in what we call embedded ELT, which are ETL tools you can use directly within the orchestrator without having to adopt off-the-shelf SaaS services. So, and each of those has very standardized patterns for how you build them. So we really are thinking in terms of, we kind of refer to them as integration families. So we really want built-in families of integrations that look and feel the same. So you can kind of use them. Another phrase we use is learn once, use anywhere. So that is the front. That is kind of the story on the integration front.
Thanks. Yeah, and as you alluded to, we also are revamping our documentation right now, and we're going to improve educating how to build integrations and kind of make it more of a collaborative thing with the community. So there are a lot of improvements going on there. We have another question here that's just asking, will Airlift be open source too? I believe it is, Nick, is that right?
Yep, Airlift is open source, nothing dependent on Cloud or Plus, pardon me.
Nice. This next one says, as a software engineer starting to tap into data engineering, where do I start? That's a really good question. My advice there is just find a domain that like a problem or a subject that you find interesting and try to build data pipelines around that, whether that be like sports or video games or anything, and just tinker with the tools that are available to you. Alex, do you have any other advice around just getting started in the data engineering space?
I mean, we have the Dagster University courses as well, which go through, and you have like projects that you work through to start to completion that go through the different primitives in Dagster. And at the end, you have a good understanding of how to build a project in Dagster and what the structure looks like. And by doing these courses, we try to bring in software engineering best practices. So when you come at data engineering from that angle, I think you'll understand it a lot better.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have a question in the chat that says how to integrate LLM ops with Dagster platform. We actually did a deep dive with Olivier a couple weeks ago where we were showing how to use LangChain from Dagster. And that was a super powerful way to kind of integrate with LLM agents. That code is open source too that you might want to reference. And I believe we have a few blog posts out on working with LLMs from Dagster. Nice. Okay, Ryan asked, my team is very small, so often our practitioners are also managing the platform as well. Would you have any best practices to ensure a clean separation between the platforms and the practitioners?
Yeah, I can answer this. When we talk about, Ryan, when we talk about this internally in the company, we actually don't talk about practitioners and platform people as different humans. We think of them as different roles. And we think that even like, for example, if I like joined as the first data person at a company, I would like divide my brain into like the platform brain and the practitioner brain. And sometimes I'd be thinking about setting up tooling for myself, setting up CI/CD, building maybe some like common abstractions or a lightweight framework. I mean, given who I am, I'd probably spend too much time doing the framework stuff. But I think it's more about, there's both like the separation in terms of the API between the two, but then there's also just the acknowledgement that like we're really talking about roles. And and sometimes as the individual practitioner, you go into platform mode and some go into practitioner mode.
Nice. Okay, we have a couple more. Chris said, do you plan to somehow encapsulate or manage streaming data sets, and how do you plan to represent them since they don't have the concept of static materializations? This isn't something that we're actively implementing right now. We have some demonstrations of using sensors to say like subscribe to a Kafka topic and then trigger like partition backfills of assets or run requests of assets for multiple times for like streaming data. But that's something that we're still exploring. Nick, I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, but that's like still in the works, I would say.
Yeah, I think the way that I think about streaming is that you can model the streams that exist as external assets, and then it depends on how you want. When people ask about this, is like, what do you actually want to do in the batch system as it relates to the streaming system? Are we talking about just having meta information about it? Are we talking about the batch processes being able to read from, say, the Kafka topics? Or are we more talking about Dagster orchestrating streaming computation itself? Right now we're very much focused on, in terms of the streaming, I think like the most like true answer is that we have the ability to model the lineage of the upstream streams. You can pump observations to track specific metadata about those things over time. But that, and then also with features like declarative automation, you could actually schedule based on those properties. So that is what is going on there.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, do you need streaming for your analytics? And if not, then you can land your events in some kind of storage layer and then do batch processing on top of that. So it really depends on the use case, I think, like you said. Cool. We have a user who asked, I have a customer where they have no servers or platform, SaaS only organization. Any thoughts on what's the approach for this type of organization as they don't have any platform server team? Well, I think that's the perfect opportunity to use Dagster Plus, where we manage the servers for you. So we do have an offering that might fit their need adequately, actually.
And that goes into another question we have here, where someone said they had to self-host for security and compliance reasons. We offer hybrid deployments for pro customers. So if you're interested in that, you can follow up with either Colton and I in Slack, and we can get you in touch with a sales engineer.
Yeah, that gives you kind of the best of both worlds, where you can manage your infrastructure and then have Dagster managed by us. It depends on the security requirements of metadata ownership and things like that. Cool. Well, maybe we'll take a couple more and then we'll call it. But this says, do you plan to integrate data asset policy management with Dagster, something like Apache Ranger? I'm actually not too familiar with this. We might have to respond to you offline on that one, unless either of you would like to respond. Yeah, we can get back to you on that one. And if you want to hop on our Slack, you can message us there too, and we can follow up. There's a question about dynamic partitions. Do you plan on enabling more than 2 dynamic partitions in the future? I think, Nick, maybe you're best to answer that one.
I assume you're, Dimitar, I assume you're referring to multi-dimensional partitions. And will there be more than 2 in the future? You're truly touching on a sore spot. So congratulations. It is not on the near-term roadmap, but it is my ambition to have multi-dimensional partitions.
Okay, we do have a few more, but I actually think I would suggest hopping on our Slack if you have any questions that we weren't able to address. And Alex and I and Nick, we'll be hanging out in there, and we can answer any outstanding questions. But other than that, this was super exciting, and we thank you all for attending. Does anybody else have any closing words?
Yeah, just thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for answering the questions. Colton, can you drop a link to the join the community Slack in the chat just so they have it?
Yep, I'll do that right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, but just thank you everyone. Remember, we've got a bunch of awesome sessions coming up this week, so make sure you attend. It looked like from the poll that came back, people are super excited about a bunch of other days of content, so we're really happy to see that. Yeah, we're just looking forward to having y'all as a part of this. Any closing words from you, Nick, before we close it out?
No, other than thanks everyone for coming.